Good morning, and welcome to the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry Workforce Development Forum. I am Aurel Heaven, First Vice President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and your host for this morning's forum. Our theme is workforce development during and after a pandemic. The question is, why is workforce development important? It is important because it focuses on an individual's ability to grow their skills and develop the tools necessary for business success. Workforce development trains individuals to be more productive and prosperous in the workplace, and this benefits both the employer and the employee. Workforce development takes a people-first approach to business growth, an approach that offers strategies to improve an individual's potential in the workplace and improve their career trajectory. It is therefore of significant importance now more than ever during this pandemic and the changing of the world, the changing of the working environment as we know it, that we focus on workforce development. We will now invite Director Mary Chambers, who will take us through invocation, followed by the opening remarks by our President. Director Chambers, please.
And free from sin, took our sins upon himself and died to redeem us from death and hell. Let us pray. Father God, we come in penitence to you, knowing that we are able to do so, not because we are worthy, but because of who and how you are, loving and forgiving. You have not held our weaknesses and failures against us, but have sought to bring us closer to you, even in our disobedience. We have misused our environment and brought harm to nature itself, but still you see and forgive us. We pray for Jamaica land we love. We pray for our leaders, from our government down to our leaders in all echelons of our society. We cry out to you for relief from the crime wave that is engulfing our country. We plead with you for relief from this pandemic that has changed our very lives and ways of living in such drastic ways. But Lord, we know that in spite of all that is happening around us, there is still hope. There is hope in the fact that we can still look out for each other. There is still hope in the fact that life continues. The world still turns. There is still sun and rain, day and night, and the cycles continue, that you are still God and that you are still large and in charge. We ask that you place a ring of protection around your people, that no evil may befall them, from the eldest to the youngest. And so we place ourselves and everything around us into your hands, because we know that yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, she has a heart for the poor and downtrodden, as exhibited in her founding of Sarah's Children, her advocacy for the young and elderly, and her founding of Mobe City Run, which has raised over $24 million for charity. She has been known to give up even the gown on her back. Articulate and hardworking, she has received many awards along the way, including those from the Gleaner Company, the Press Association of Jamaica, and the Jamaica Tourist Board, while finding time to travel to over 70 countries. Service is her watchword, and she has proven this in various positions in the Press Association of Jamaica, the Western Media Association, among others. And I must tell you this, she fancies herself a singer. A leader who pushes, and when that fails, she pulls, but she must get results. And best of all, she's hot. Hot, hot. So please, help me bring on the president of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, our own Miss Janice Therese Silvera.
Good morning. Good morning to those who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, and those of you who are in this room. Director Mary Chambers, who is also a chaplain at the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, introduced me as Janice Silvera. And I knew her introduction would have been longer than my greetings. And I appreciate her for that. Honestly, thank you, Director Mary. I want to recognize officially our first VP, Oral Heaven, who did a magnificent job organizing this workforce development forum, in addition to the team that he put together, who I am assuming includes Director Paulette Neal and, of course, our chaplain. And I tried to help as much as I could, but under no circumstances have we had anything this magnitude virtually in a long while. So congratulations to you, VP Oral Heaven. You are obviously someone who believes in anything that you're doing, it must be well done. I want to also recognize our main speaker here this morning, who came out of Kingston. She tells me that this hotel is one of her favorites. And I'm speaking about our sponsors, the Hilton Rosehall Resort and Spa, for allowing us access to one of their fabulous ballrooms here at the hotel. Want to also recognize our other sponsors, NCB and Sagicor Bank and Ward's Powers Tool. In addition to that, we have been very fortunate to get the University of the West Indies, MONA, Western Jamaica Camp team to help us with the technical aspect of this forum. I'm not going to keep you very long with my greetings, but I want to say that I hope that the number of persons who are on the panel, and you'll see them later. I will not introduce them because I'm not the MC, but I want to also thank the panelists for agreeing to accommodate us. This is our first major event for 2021. We had a fantastic press conference last week. We got a lot of media out of it. And this week, we're coming to your offices, we're coming into your homes, because we understand the importance of workforce development. We understand the importance of building human capital. We understand also that we're living in a different era when we will have to look at how we treat our staff, all we do in our offices. So we are taking that step before anyone else does. As an organization that represents so many companies in Western Jamaica, we felt that if anyone was to do this kind of forum, we had to be first out the door. So again, I want to thank you, those of you who are watching from wherever you are, for joining us this morning as we take you on a journey that you will not regret. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, for those enlightening remarks, and Director Mary for such a awakening invocation. Viewers, ladies and gentlemen, all, workforce development isn't a one-and-done initiative to train your workers. Rather, it is an ongoing process of educating and empowering your employees, giving them the ammunition to tackle the workplace problems of tomorrow. To help us get a better idea of what workforce development looks like in practice, we have provided this forum, which entails a panel discussion and 2 presentations, including the main presentation by our keynote speaker and a question and answer segment at the end. Now, in keeping with COVID-19 protocols, we do have a compliant audience. Our viewers on Facebook and YouTube, we welcome you. You're also welcome to send your questions, which we'll consider at the end of our presentations in our question and answer discussion segment. Before we continue, please allow me to thank the businesses that make this possible today, our sponsors: the beautiful Hilton Rosehall Resort and Spa, Sagicor Bank, National Commercial Bank, Ward's Power Tools, Appliance TV Depot, JAVCO, University of the West Indies WJC, and the Montego Bay Convention Center. Our gratitude to those businesses, and I trust they are online to benefit from this forum. Our first panel discussion is Developing the Home-Based Workforce, Protocols on the Legal Framework. Director Paulette Neal, attorney at law, will be the moderator for this segment, after which Workforce Development Committee member Stuart Barnes will introduce the next segment, our first presentation with speaker Michelle McIntyre-Plummer, who is joining us via Zoom. Director Paulette and her team, our first team member we'll invite here is Natasha Parchment-Clarke. She has many titles: mother, wife, sister, small business owner, environmentalist, plastic, listen carefully, plastic buckle lady, and her favorite, Auntie Tasha. Born in Kingston and raised in Discovery Bay, Natasha has made Montego Bay her home for the past 20 plus years as she worked in tourism and the call center industry before starting her own training company back in 2005. In her spare time, Auntie Tasha volunteers at the Montego Bay Marine Park as a mermaid, is a youth and environment liaison for the Rotary E-Club of the Caribbean, and is a plastic bottle collection ambassador for Recycle Partners of Jamaica in St. James. Please welcome our panelists. Training Trees Director of Training, Natasha Parchment-Clarke. Our next panelist, we're going to invite our Director Paulette, attorney at law. We're going to invite you to the platform. Director Paulette is an attorney, and she's also, of course, a very active and vibrant director in the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce. Our next panelist is also an attorney with Don Cox, and his name is Mr. Chuck Cameron. His correct name is Chukwuemeka Cameron. Mr. Cameron, please. I'll correct that. Our next panelist is an attorney, but with design privacy, not with Don Cox. Just make that clear. So, ladies and gentlemen, we turn over to our director, Paulette Neal, who will take us through this panel, which is entitled Developing the Home-Based Workforce, Protocols on the Legal Framework.
A pleasant morning to everyone, and I would like to especially welcome our viewers joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Now, I'm going to begin this segment with a quote, and this quote is from the Vice President of Gartner Incorporations, Mr. George Penn, and he said, and I quote, "Success in a hybrid work environment requires employers to move beyond viewing remote or hybrid environments as a temporary or short-term strategy and to treat it as an opportunity," end of quote. Now, remote work is not a new concept, It has been around for quite some time. However, the pandemic caused by COVID-19 has caused many businesses, or forced many businesses rather, to implement remote work as a part of their business structure. Now, Natasha, tell us, what are some of the protocols that businesses should put in place to or facilitate remote working?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Beautiful Montego Bay. It's wonderful to see real people and be sitting so close. And it's wonderful to be virtual, as I'm very used to now. So your question, basically, what does it take? What are the protocols to working effectively in a home environment?
Right.
I'll share my story first, which is a business that I started in 2005. Is a training company, Training Tree. I had 2 small children, great husband who can plait hair and set off to school. I went around in my car, going to train here, train there, projector screen, carried on for the past 15 years. Then COVID hit. We all know what happened. Things went virtually. So from the beginning of April, I'm a proud Zoom owner. I have an account. I'm not just a little 40 minutes free because I now conduct my training on Zoom. So about 40% of my business is virtual, and the other 60% I still go and train COVID safe protocols in place. Even one of my favorite clients right now, Radiology West here in Montego Bay, we do on the roof of the G West building. Early morning, it's beautiful, it's peaceful, and that's how we do it to keep it safe. But working at home, many a challenge. And for those busy moms, you have a household to manage, you have your children, your families. It is a challenge, but one that we can really embrace and make successful. The four techniques that I really think we need to take into consideration: discipline, vision, connection, and lots of optimism. Right? With discipline, you need to wake up, show up fully dressed. I put on my earrings, I put on my heels, even my perfume when I am actually doing a virtual course. So my children never know, is she going out or is she just going into the home office? Because I look exactly the same. I'm not the pajama, well suited here, and then pajamas, slippers, barefoot underneath. So show up, be a professional when you are working. With a vision, have your goals written. And, we know the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, researched, time-bound. But we really need to have our visions in front of us so we're reminded all the time. I do vision board sessions, lots of cartridge paper, sprinkle, and glue in the past, but now they're digital. So I have a Zoom session coming up, and this is how we just keep our plans in front of us so we can see it. My screensaver is my vision board. I have it on the cork board in my office also. Connections. Keep your connections. When there's no cocktail parties to go to, there's no working lunch. This is the first presentation of the new year where I can meet different players, business persons in and around Montego Bay. It's a delight. There used to be, 2, 3 of these a week before, so it's really a pleasure. Keep your connections. If you go on a virtual Zoom or a webinar, look in the participants list. Do I know anybody in there? Reach out to them. Hey, long time I don't see you. Right? Connect with people in the new ways that we have to. And have great optimism. Look, my glass is always running over. I'm not a half full kind of girl. It's running over, water all about. How beautiful to come to Hilton Rosehall. I came early just to get the view. Right? So make the most of it. I'm going to be here. Let's make the most of it. So keeping optimistic. I'll save the other things for a bit later, but those are the few that keep me going in a lonely and very different world that we're all in now. The new normal is different, but a few things that I would suggest that we try. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. All right, we're going to go over to Chuck for a little bit. And Chuck is going to tell us a little about how we deal with or protect the data that we have in our possession while we're working from home.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And yes, Kudos to the Mobile Chamber of Commerce for choosing this venue, because it's also one of my favorite venues as well. So, more importantly, kudos to the Chamber of Commerce for focusing on employee development and putting them at the center of this exercise, because that falls squarely in line with what we speak about when we speak about data protection, because it is not data protection in a vacuum. What we're actually doing is protecting the personal data of citizens of Jamaica, starting with the personal data of your employees. So the world now, while it has become more remote and lonely, we now are compelled and forced to put the individual at the center of our activities. And that is a construct of data protection. So 2 years ago, there was a NITS decision that gave all Jamaican, that announced the right to informational privacy of all citizens. So that's the context in which I want us to look at it. So it's not just a matter of you have to turn on your firewalls at home or you have to encrypt your data. No, we first want to understand we are protecting the privacy rights of individuals. So usually, when you work in a corporate setting, the bigger the company, the more difficult it is even to browse the internet, or you think you want to use a Dropbox that's so much more efficient to transfer documents, but you have to go through IT, and IT is going to tell you can't do it. So what local ITs we know how to do is to lock down the perimeters. Full stop. That's how we protect information in general. However, we are now working from home. You don't have an IT department from home. You are now free to do anything you want to do from home. So the question is, so how do you protect the personal data that you are still processing from home? And it goes back to Natasha's core skill sets and core offering, but not necessarily in this regard. But we must first ensure that we increase the amount of training our employees get as it relates to information security and data protection compliance. So that's the first step, training, because in any information or cybersecurity exercise, the weakest link and your strongest defense will be the persons who implement and work with the system. So whereas you may used to have a mandatory training once a year or once every 2 years, training and awareness now needs to be built in. So I love the idea that I heard Natasha speak to about having her vision be part of her screensaver. In terms of awareness, you want, especially if you are using company laptops remotely, implement data protection policies, data protection standards on your screensaver. So just to give you 3 practical steps when working from home. I gave you the first one already. 1, training. The second thing, if possible, it is more desirable that the company issues the devices that you'll be using remotely. And if, other than that, it would be, you are exposing personal data to all the viruses that you would usually draw down on your own personal laptop. Because when you lend your teenage son your laptop, and it don't have to be a teenage son, you are bombarded with all sorts of things that invite you to download all sorts of malware on your computer. So on a corporate laptop, your ability to download certain information or things from the internet would be limited. The third thing we want you to be very conscious of is how do you dispose and treat with documents and data that you generate. Okay, you bring all your files home and you're working from home. What happens to them when you're through with them? Usually, at home, in your office, you have a shredder at home. You have a shredder in your office, or you have a waste disposal. And there is a process in place to, I hope, safely dispose of these documents. Are we giving our employees shredders to destroy the documents that they are generating? So those are just 3 practical tips to start the discussion off with. And I hope I've put it in a context that we understand the paradigm in which we are now operating.
Yes, indeed. Training is very important. And in a virtual world, we would have to connect with the training virtually. So Natasha, share with us, how can businesses ensure that their employees stay connected while working from home with their superiors in a virtual working environment?
All right, thank you. So the question basically, when you're at home working, how do you keep connected with the team in office somewhere, or your supervisors, managers, etc.?
Right.
Well, I think it's really a two-way thing. The leader of that department, of that company, really needs to be the one reaching out. But as the employee at home as well, you need to be accessible. You need to be available. You need to be, not just, okay, 2 minutes before this meeting, I'll Zoom. I'm ready, come in 10 minutes before and have a chat. The manager can set a theme. All right, before we start the meeting, we're going to talk about what we did last week, or how's online schooling going for your children. Connect. What's missing at home is what I call the corridor chatter. You walk down the corridor and you see somebody and you chat, or you bump into somebody in the lunchroom and you ask a little question. Those types of things are missing. So everything that we can do before, we can actually do it virtually, but we have to do it consciously. So you make times before and after meetings to just have those casual chats. Call people, speak to them, not just email. Leave a voice note for somebody, video something and send it to your supervisor. This is what I was doing today. This was a view from my home. That type of thing to keep it real. And what I really enjoy doing with teams that I work separately from, because I really embrace any company that I'm doing training with, we like to do something all in common. All right, we're all going to have a cup of tea and we're all going to log on at this time with your teacup full, and we're going to talk for 20 minutes on this topic whilst drinking a cup of tea. It sounds a little bit like, but it really works because we all feel that we're doing the same thing, so somehow you're connected in a different way. So something just as simple as that. But there's many little tips and tricks that you can do to really connect, drape up people and drag them to the screen virtually. Don't just sit there looking and talking business.
Okay. While we're working from home though, we don't have access to the usual having a break in the lunchroom, conversing with our coworkers. How do we prevent digital overload while working remotely?
Well, the research and the data shows that we must take breaks regularly. Open a door, open a window, have natural sunlight coming in, stand up, walk around, move. I don't eat at my desk. I don't drink at my desk. I get up and go somewhere else in my home to do that. Otherwise, you could literally sit there 12 hours and you haven't got up, right? So I definitely I'm in my office here. My children, my family, my mom is living with us now during COVID. They know once a particular screen is across the door of my office, that means I'm either on air or doing something live. No interrupt. Even the dog, them outside, no barking. I'm busy. The screen is pulled, right? But definitely I make very clear divisions between I'm working and I'm not, which then again leads to other problems because we have friends or colleagues. Oh, you work from home, so you must be in your pajamas. You're not doing much. I'm in my office 7 o'clock most mornings, 8 o'clock sometimes, ready to work. I'm not watching Netflix at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm working. So some people are going to pop by and visit, or let me phone and chat off whole heap of things in the middle of my work day. So sometimes it actually goes the other way because people who work at home, I don't know what you think we're doing. We're working.
Right. Okay, so Chuck, while working from home, for many persons, we have other individuals at home with us. If you have a family, you will have your spouse, you will have your children there. How do you protect the company's data, the company's equipment, while working remotely?
So, I'm going to make a distinction between protecting the company's equipment and going back to protecting that constitutional right to privacy.
Right.
So the first thing we want to focus on is the personal data that resides within the company's organization, within their servers, within their drivers. They're in office or in the cloud or wherever they may be. So the first question is, how do you do you provide a secure access to that personal data? So you really want to contemplate two things or three things. One, multi-factor authentication if you are using a VPN. So one, you can clearly identify, and this falls squarely in this whole discussion that's going on in terms of identification and authentication.
Right.
You first need to determine and verify the person who is intended to be able to have access to the information in your office is accessing it. Once you do that, the next question is creating a secure tunnel or a secure path, a secure remote tunnel to access the information. So that's one, the authentication, and then two, the what is otherwise known as a VPN, a virtual private network. But once you get on to the corporate network, are you now able to go on to the CRM? Are you now able to go on to the HR machines? Are you now able to go into the finance tools that you're using? No, you have to now ensure that your network, and although everything may be in the cloud, everything still has to be segmented. If I were to use an analogy, and this is a perfect example, the industry was moving towards an open floor plan where you come in and the playing field is flat, but there's no boss, there's no hierarchy, you sit over there, you sit over there, and it's just flat. Think about that as personal data that you have to be securing. Think about having all the HR information over there in a box. Think about having all the financial records. Think about having all the passports and identification open in a box. If someone were to walk into that office and have access to everything, that's a problem. So what is recommended in the real world is that you keep these things locked up. Right. Similarly so, in the virtual space, you have to segregate your networks and make sure even while I have access to the corporate network, I can't walk up and down as I have a mind. So those are three. No, so there's no virtual doesn't create anything new really. The principles remain the same and the laws remain the same. So we just really want to think about it in very practical terms.
Okay.
Might I add another, VPN and all that technology, a really simple thing that I do to protect my work equipment, my laptop, my projector. My son, of course, wants to stream a movie on the wall of the house with my work projector and use up my light bulb. No, I actually label extension cord, laptop, even phone cords, everything that belongs to the company. I said we don't download, when they were smaller, SpongeBob and crazy, and now when they're older, I don't download anything here. If you use my extension with the label on it, put it back in my training suitcase, so when I'm ready to roll out the door, it is in there. And that's one way that I know at home I protect and kind of divide things that are available for my family and things that are my livelihood.
Right, okay. So now to wrap up this section, I want each of you to tell what advice would you give to businesses who are hesitant in incorporating remote working as a permanent structure in their work environment? What advice would you give to these businesses?
All right. So my thoughts on what advice would you give to a company who is thinking, boy, the virtual thing is just a COVID. It soon get vaccinated and disappear. Remote workers have increased by 115% in the past 10 years. That's a global workforce analytics piece of data. By the end of this year, a quarter of the global workforce will work from home multiple days a week. you know, it's going there. So if you're not on that train, it is leaving you at the station. People are, you know, the data shows people are more productive at home. It costs companies less to have their teams at home. There's so many positives about, you know, a lot of companies who feel and think they have control over employees they can see in offices. For all of us who have worked in offices in big corporations, how many times you pass somebody and them on the computer playing solitaire, right? And I guarantee the person working at home is trying to prove themselves. I'm not at home playing solitaire, you know, I'm doing some serious work, and actually being way more productive in their home environment. No travel expenses, no have to buy lunch out a road. You're much more comfortable in your home setting. So, man, it's a no-brainer to me. Get on board.
Right.
So we're now in the information age. And for those who are familiar with entrepreneurship and what a startup is defined as, is really a company, a new company that has the ability for exponential growth over a very short period of time. There is no small company, a brick and mortar small company can have exponential growth. If we were to look at all the what we call unicorns, those companies that move from zero profit to $2 million US a year and above, it is having a distributed workforce. You have developers in one country, you have managers over here, you have project managers in another country. We now have access to any resource and the best resource at the best price. So if it is we want to show that we have a business and we have a big building and we are important, wait until COVID finish and come back to your office. But if it is you want to thrive and take advantage of the opportunities in the information age and generate wealth for yourself and Jamaica, it is an opportunity we want to grasp at.
Great. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Chuck. I'm going to end with another quote. And this one is from Mark Lobosco, the Vice President of Talent Solutions at LinkedIn. And he said, and I quote, "Now that companies have built the framework and experienced the cost and time savings associated with it, there's no real reason to turn back." End of quote.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Chairman, Mr. Heaven, Madam President, Ms. Silvera, our guest speaker, Mrs. Walters, the President of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica, other specially invited guests here on YouTube, on Facebook. Good morning. Michelle McIntyre-Plummer is an HR professional with over 17 years of experience in the financial industry. She currently leads the talent management team at the National Commercial Bank and has provided leadership in the areas of quality assurance, learning and development, organizational health, technology work groups, and the branch network. She completed her bachelor's in human resources. She has a master's in business administration and a postgrad certificate in management information system. She also has a certificate in big data analysis. She enjoys dancing, swimming, and doing research to keep abreast with the new trends. She is married for over 13 years and a proud mother of an active 8-year-old. Please make her welcome.
Testing.
Make her welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Barnes, for that very warm welcome. And thank you for having me. I truly, truly appreciate this time to have a talk with you. I want to also thank the organizers for inviting me. Are you hearing me? Okay, let me continue. Right, so I had some feedback just now. So I was telling Mr. Barnes that we are currently focusing at National Commercial Bank in this very area that I will speak on today. And I am so delighted to share the information and where we are and how we really need to be channeling our talent for the future, because guess what? COVID-19 has changed the workplace, and not only the workplace, but it has actually changed the complexion of our workforce, what our workforce actually looks like today. So I'm going to talk about talent for the future and equipping your organization with the new roles and the skills required to operate in the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 environment. Just a little glance of what I will discuss today. We'll look at the current environment, where we are today, what are some of the employment trends, being ready for 2021, and the next steps. You know, what do we need to do? I'm a very practical person. I love to give you the application. What do we need to do next? This is what's happening now. You know, what should I do going forward? And then, of course, if you have any questions, feel free. I'd like to talk about our reality. Where are we now? Yes, we are in the fourth revolution. We passed the first, the second, the third. We have moved from using machinery to help us to make processes more efficient, to having computers, the age of computing. And now the fourth revolution is as a result of groundbreaking emerging technology, big data, And I'm sure most of you might have heard about AI and AR, artificial intelligence and augmented reality. When you look at some of the things that Google and Facebook is doing, sometimes you look and you say, how is it that I'm able to talk about flowers, and then I'm just able to see flowers popping up on my phone or on my social media page. It's some of these technologies, that groundbreaking technologies, that are really impacting us today and making the experience for us much better. Our reality is that we're experiencing economic downturn brought on by this global pandemic. And thirdly, we're experiencing workforce disruption. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that disruption in a little while. We also have jobs at high risk for automation, and I decided to pull out a few that I got from the Future of Jobs Survey 2020, World Economic Forum. I pulled out a few of them that I know would be applicable to our business owners out there, so that it can take us from where we are now into where we need to be transformed into. And I'm going to share with you that if we are still here, then hope is not lost, and we still have some time to get where we need to get to with our talent and with developing our people. So if we have computer operators, that role is declining. Administrative assistants, telemarketers, filing clerks, just to name a few. These jobs are at high risk because we are coming up with processes and equipment that are simply able to do the job faster, more efficient than these current roles right now. So, guess what? It sounded like doom and gloom, but believe it or not, our reality reflects opportunity. It shows that by 2025, 85 million jobs may be displaced by a shift in the division of labor between humans and machines. However, 97 million new roles will emerge. And several research has shown, the Harvard Business Review, the Forbes, that yes, we are going to be losing jobs. The requirement for talent of the future is changing. However, there is great opportunity. And that's what I want us to take from this today, that despite the changes, there is great opportunity for us to pivot on some of the existing skills, some of the existing competencies that our team members have, that our people have, so that we can thrive and do better. I heard a previous presenter talk about people first. We practice the talent first methodology, where we put our people and our talent at the forefront to ensure that in light of what is happening, we can pivot to what our reality is and what the future should be. So with that said, we have spoken about the past, we've spoken about the current jobs that we need to pivot on. Now I'm going to touch on some of the emerging jobs, some of the new and emerging jobs out there. And I have bucketed them as also seen in the job survey 2020 into job families. So you would see things like cloud computing with talent under development, cloud consultants, platform engineers. In the area of marketing, you hear a lot about digital marketing on TVJ Smile Jamaica. This morning alone, I heard a digital marketing specialist on, and they were telling us all the great things that are happening, especially now, this conference, being able to do it virtually and live on YouTube and all of that. It's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes, and we need the digital marketers, we need the developers, we need the digitally oriented minds to come and help us to transform our space now into what we expect for the future. Of course, we have heard a lot about the big data and the artificial intelligence. We need the data scientists and the data engineer. People and culture is another big one for us. And one of the things that we focus on at NCB as well is we have beefed up a lot in our organizational health and our focus on people and developing the culture. So you hear about a lot of roles like partnering, talent acquisition. You hear a lot about information technology recruiter or a digital recruiter. It was just yesterday we posted an ad for a digital talent recruiter for our organization. And we are stepping into this new age. We have to realize where we're coming from or where we are so that we can make the necessary steps to grow. And we have to start now. It's 2021, but it's not too late. And also, of course, sales. A very common one that I hear about now is a customer success specialist, the sales, the business development representative. So you're developing relationships. You're not just hitting sales numbers for customers. So these are some of the new and emerging jobs. Kudos to you if you have already established some of these roles within your companies. But if we have not yet, we can take a look at them and see how we can be ready for 2021 and beyond. All right, so I wanted to have us take a look at these three. I had put them in 3 buckets that I wanted to share with you in terms of how do we be ready for 2021 and beyond. What are some of the things we need to be doing within our businesses to ensure that our talent and our people thrive, to ensure that we are actually matching up and we're sustainable for years to come. So we talk about establishing upskilling programs and reskilling programs and then branding it. Branding it for our people so that they can improve in their ability to easily and quickly retain, cross-train, and we can easily redeploy staff. So yes, we had somebody who was at the front line, but maybe we need to develop them further into a relationship area in the back office, because we realize that not many persons are going to be coming in on the front line of our businesses anymore. So we need to be able to pivot with that employee so that that employee can take control virtually. They can take control with meetings that are conducive to this COVID-19 environment. So we need to help them along that way and not assume that they can quickly pivot or not immediately cut if we can afford not to, because we can help them to build competencies in the areas that would really make a difference going forward. Have a deliberate focus on people and organizational health. This one is very important, emphasizing the benefits to protect the emotional and the mental and physical health of your team members is critical. Also looking at the competencies and experiences that they have, because sometimes you put someone in an area and you don't realize that there are other skill sets that the person might have that can actually benefit you. There are a lot of persons, we have a couple persons as well, we are guilty of it sometimes, that we have persons who are tellers, but they did their degree in economics or analytics, and they have the ability to take on new roles in this new and emerging economy. And the final one is assess talent for success. Find the talent within your organization that creates the most value for you. Identify what those top roles are, whether it's 20, whether it's 50. Identify these key roles in your organization and ensure that you have the right people in these roles. And when I say right people, I don't mean only in terms of competencies and technical skills, but you have the right people in terms of mindset, focusing on driving your business forward, persons who are really in it for the growth and the betterment of your organization. So assess those things. Look at your talents and say, what needs to be different about my talent? Step back and say, what needs to be different about my talent? And of course, it says that in the future, 39% of training will be delivered by internal trainers. So in upskilling, in focusing on organizational health, in assessing the talent for success, we are going to be building on these key talents that we have, conduct internal training with lead persons in various areas that can help to build up and help to support and drive things such as organizational health and looking at the benefits of our people. So focus a lot on the care and the support of your people to ensure that you can drive the outcome that you require for the future. I mean, back in the day, it was a lot about target. And even now, it's a lot about targets and performance and limited focus on the softer side, you know, of just understanding the people and understanding what makes them tick and what works best for them. So we need to focus a lot more on this going forward. How do we plan effectively for a post-COVID environment? The opportunity and challenge for HR leaders today is to respond and move from a static planning approach to a more agile approach. And when I say agile, I mean an approach that is more incremental, not waiting for months and maybe years until a plan can be fully completed and great, but to at least in increments and in bite sizes, take your initiative forward. Take the thinking of your people, the initiatives that come from your people to reshape the workforce and incorporate the changes in your business. So innovating and supporting the innovation of your people will really help you going forward. So assess, I'm going to touch on 4 key points on the planning effectively. And one is assess the impact on your business model and pivot. So again, we're asking you to step back. So we're running fast because, you know, the tourism sector is not as it should be. And things are changing. Customers' likes are changing. Access to customer is not as easy as it was before. So assess the impact of this current environment on the model that you had, and then literally put pen to paper. If you have a whiteboard, mark up that whiteboard, look at the business model, have a visual of the business model, and then look at what your business model would look like for the future in light of the fact that you don't have these opportunities, you know, at your feet as you used to before. Then we're going to step into identifying the value-added competencies. So before I had said, look at the talent that would bring in the success for your business. Under this talent, you need to look at what are some of the key competencies that this talent needs to have. Must have teamwork, must have problem solving and analytical skill set. Break out those competencies based on the roles that you have and see whether you are aligned or you have best fit for these competencies that are required for the future. Then analyze the internal competencies and capabilities. Again, you're going to ensure you have your table, whether it is your Excel or otherwise, and you have the talents down and you have listed them and you say, okay, these are the competencies we have now, we're working with now. These are the competencies we want for the future. And assess them, analyze them internally, and then help to build and grow on those competencies. Then the final one you're going to look at is develop your talent strategy to unearth those key skills. So yes, when you assess the competencies, you may say, okay, between a scale of 1 to 5, I believe generally overall my talent is at a 3 in terms of where I need to be. They are competent. On average, they know what they need to know to get to our goals. However, there is something else that we need to unearth in that talent to take it from a 3 to a 4 or even to a 5, which is maximum, which is the expert. So what are some of those things that we're going to put in place to ensure we move our talent from A to B and realize our goals for 2024, 2025, and beyond? Research also shows that 40% of workers in the consumer industry and healthcare industry will require reskilling of about 6 months or less. So more complex areas will require longer training, but for the consumer industry where things are changing so fast, and the healthcare industry where you need to know new things. I mean, we hear a vaccine is coming soon, and we have to be pivoting with the training for our nurses and our team members. These training have to be short. So 3 months, 6 months, you'll have to have reskilling and upskilling training for these persons, whereas for some areas, you may need to have a course in for a year. So we need to focus on what is needed for our competencies, for our talent, for our people, to ensure that we can unearth and transform the talent into how we want to see our people thrive and how we want our business to grow. So that's my presentation today in terms of stepping back, assessing where we need to get to, putting the visual there, putting pen to paper, looking at our model and transforming that model to a futuristic model. And when we used to talk about futuristic, it's when we used to watch probably Back to the Future, and we used to think that the future is very far-fetched. The future is so near right now. Whatever we're doing in terms of building our talents and developing our people, we have to start now so that we're ready for the future. So that's my charge for you for today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for having me. Any questions? Or is this question?
No, question will be held until after the main presentation. So thank you. Just please stay with us.
We also want to type it. Thank you, Director Paulette and Member Stewart. Thanks to the members of the panel and also to Michelle for those presentations. We appreciate those very informative segments. I'm confident our viewers had many takeaways that will assist them as they navigate through these tumultuous times and strategize to build their workforce during these unprecedented times. We really appreciate those 2 segments. And of course, we'll take the questions later at the end of our main presentation, which is now. It's now time to listen to our keynote speaker. 25 years ago, Lois began her journey in the field of human resources in various public sector entities, inclusive of Ministries of Education and Health, Jamaica Customs and Office of the Services Commission. Over the years, she managed portfolios such as Director, Manpower Planning, Director, HRM&D, and Senior Deputy Chief Personnel Officer. Presently, she is the Principal Director, Human Resource Policy and Information in the Strategic Human Resource Management Division at the Ministry of Finance and Public Service. Mrs. Walters is the first female president of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica and is an HR subcommittee member of the CLA. She was a board member of the Tax Administration Jamaica, TAJ, chair of its HR subcommittee, as well as a member of the UIC Career and Placement Committee. Her areas of expertise include HR policy development, HRM&D leadership development, HR, human resource management and development, leadership development, team building, customer service, and of course, professionalism. Academically, she holds a bachelor's degree in literature in English a master's degree in human resource development, and a postgraduate diploma in public sector senior management. Professionally, she has pursued a number of programs such as the GOJ's Public Sector Senior Leadership Development Program, the Advanced Inter-American Policy and Innovation Management Program at Georgetown University, and the Commonwealth Executive Program in the Public Management at the School of Business, York University. Lois blogs at www.yardstyledevotions.wordpress.com. She's a devoted wife and mother of 3. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers online, help me welcome our main speaker, Mrs. Lois Walters.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. Madam President, thank you for having me. I'm enjoying the surroundings. When you look outside and you see the beautiful sea, you know we are in a good place. First Vice President, Mr. Heaven. Second Vice President, Ms. May. Third Vice President, panelists, audience members, those online, YouTube and Facebook, members of the press, good morning. I know some of you are wondering what is HERMAD, and I thought I'd just give you a little synopsis before I get into the presentation. The Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica is the official voice for human resource, leadership, and people development for a countrywide community of hundreds of members committed to best human resource and organizational development practices, promoting people and organizational development, better workplaces, fair and ethical processes in the handling of people issues, and corporate social responsibility. And yes, Chuck, data protection as well. All right, we're going to go into the presentation. Michelle, we've been talking about it since morning. Natasha, Chuck, all of us have been talking about it. So some of my presentation I'll skip through, but we'll go through. So I wanted to start with a quote by Martin Luther King. They just celebrated in the state. We celebrate him because he came to Jamaica, right? And so we want to say, he said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in a time of challenge and controversy. You can see it. And we have pandemics. We are living in an era of pandemics, and pandemics are life-changing events that challenge us to the very core. If you don't believe it, look at the room beside you. Some of you are at home. Normally, this room would be full. All of us would be here. It's challenging us. And so the quote calls us to ask ourselves, where do we stand in light of this? Are we going to waste this crisis, or are we going to turn it into an opportunity? And I see the nod, so that we're not going to waste it, right? We're not going to waste it. Another quote. I'm a quote person, as you'll probably figure out by now. Kevin Costner says, when a defining moment comes along, you define the moment or the moment defines you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to define the moment. We are a small island developing state, and therefore we are vulnerable to external shocks. And so the COVID-19, the pandemic, gave us a great shock, health-wise. Our health system is under pressure. Look at our doctors and nurses. Some of them can't go home. I know of some professionals, they have to sanitize so much before they go home. Some of them don't go home at all because they don't want to infect those they work with. And they're stretched. They're under pressure. They're working in an environment of uncertainty, and they have to learn how to harness it. And so even our workforce, their health and safety is challenged. You know, you notice that people, normally we are people who hug a lot. You know, you want a hug, I want a hug. And even at the hospital, somebody might hug somebody just because you go hug a child, encourage a child. You can't do that anymore. We are undergoing that change. Technologically, we are going through a shock. There's disruption. There's digitization, acceleration. Michelle spoke to some of this. There's a challenge of a lack of appropriate technological devices. Some children are not in school now simply because their mother has one little phone and they come and they can't even see. I know of a mother who, when she goes to work, she gives her son the phone so that he can be at school. So she has no access until she comes home. So when the teacher is looking for her, the teacher can't find her until that time. Broadband access is also an issue. Schools are struggling with that. They have to now bring themselves up to speed. Homes have to bring themselves up to speed. We're talking about remote work. Natasha, you're talking about remote work, but some homes don't have that kind of access, broadband access, so that's a challenge. There's another challenge also of missing skill sets. People are not digitally literate, and that's why they get in trouble with protection, Chuck. Because if you are not literate about something, you don't know what to do. You don't know how to protect yourself. You don't know how to segment yourself. So before we talk about protection, we also have to talk about literacy. Not just for the students, but for the labor force. We're talking about basic things like Excel. Some of us don't know it so good yet still. And that's basic, remember. And so some of us in the workforce and the potential workforce are going to be left behind. And that is another challenge we have to look at. Economically, there are shifts. Macro, minor shifts in how organizations operate. There are some jobs that are not coming back. Paulie, there are some jobs that are not coming back. There are some workforces, work processes that have been digitized and automated, new ways of working. Customers are going online. At the Chamber of Commerce, are we equipped to meet those customers online? I can stay in my bedroom now and buy an iPhone and get it delivered to my house without moving a muscle apart from my one finger. Right, Stuart? And just do like this and use my, no advertisements, right? And use whatever card and get there. With me, everybody? Layoffs, reduction of workforce hours. Normally, a hotel like this is full, booming. You'd have servers in here, at the back, at the side, checking in every minute, all the conference rooms. Reduction of work hours, major impact on our workforce. You know, how and where people work. So the different sectors are shaken. Because if we are not eating all the food, that means agriculture is shaken. Hospitality is shaken. Socially, social distancing has impacted our trademark signature moves. People go to dances, people hug, people say, "Whoa, go on, where you say?" And thump and man and girl and friend, everybody. It affects how we are seen because we are known as the warm culture. Now people look at you and walk past you. They don't know it's you, you know. You see your friends, and if you don't understand that, the story, I'll give you my little trade secret. How I know people, I study their eyes. So I know people by their eyes. If you study their eyes, you can know who it is, even though you don't see them out. But that affects us because we want the hug. We want the hug. People are isolated. Older people are now, some of them have to live with parents. Your parents have to live with you, or they have to be in nursing homes, and you can't touch them or you can't see them so much. They're shifting occupational status, working from home. All of those challenges we are facing. But this is the picture I want us to have in the back of our head. What is this picture? The Jamaica we want is Vision 2030. Jamaica, the place of choice to live, work, raise families, do business, and others add another element to retire. This is the place we want to keep. Jamaica, the place of choice to live, work, do business. But guess what? We are faced with this defining moment. No. The place of choices is not, you remember when we used to say Vision 2030 and we thought it was far? It's 9 years. Folks, we have 9 years. 9 years to turn this country into the place of choice to work and do business. There are some people who come from foreign and just stay here and work, because they can have sunshine all year round. Why is it not the place of choice? But for this to happen, we have to ensure that people at the center. You notice all of us are saying the same thing? We didn't even see each other presentation. People have to be at the center of what we do so that no one is left behind. No matter what challenge we face, we have to put people right there in the middle. So why do I say that? When you look at Statins data, and the last one I was able to find was around January, because as you know what happened in 2020. The employed labor force, 1.26. But the unemployed labor force is over 100,000. Think since COVID, how those numbers have changed and shifted. We have to ask ourselves the question, how are we going to navigate the entire workforce towards the job of tomorrow? You notice I have two hands there? There's an African proverb that says, practice with your left hand while the right hand is still there. The right hand could go missing. Suppose the right hand is our employed. In other words, we can't just think about those who are currently employed. We have to think about those who are not yet employed. Those who are, and this data are those who are actively seeking jobs but don't have any. What about those who are not actively seeking jobs but need to be employed and actively employed? Are we not scratching where they're itching? Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Maybe we're saying, oh, that one is too dunce. Him can't learn. But no, we're teaching wrong. He's interested in football or he's interested in selling. Why don't you use that selling skill as an entrepreneurial skill to teach them the basic maths? We have to change how we start to think about our workforce. There's a see, I go Jamaican too, so I don't only go foreign. Jamaican proverb that says, take time for mash ants, you will find in belly. Which means take the necessary time to investigate and you will get the answers you need. So we're going to investigate and run a little bit. We're in a chaotic environment as the pandemic has caused us. So we have to say, what are the patterns we need to discern? What are the trends for the future? We need to look at data. We know that there's big data and everything. But we're not going to have all the data that we need to make decisions. We have to go take some risk. We have to experiment more. We have to try to discern while we're doing all of that. We might have to work backwards from the results and observe. What we observe? Okay, people want somebody to talk to. Okay, maybe I need to use Zoom. Maybe I need to use Skype. Maybe I need to something, but still talk to them. Or WhatsApp. What do I need to do? Work from the results and observation. Project long-term outcomes, but make short-term plans. Because we don't know how the COVID going to treat us. And so we have to know how to navigate. In other words, be flexible. Ladies and gentlemen, be flexible. Because the pandemic, if you are to put it in another context, represents transformational change that is disruptive, big change. Remember, COVID is just one type of change. We could have something else that keeps us at home. The World Health Organization says there are other pandemics on the horizon, and they're not talking about COVID. So if COVID was so bad, Jesus, we pray. Are we prepared? That change is forcing us to examine all our assumptions that we have made about the organization, that we have made about our employees, and move into a radical shift. What is that radical shift? A developmental mode of learning and adapting and improving. Just look at I know Mobe has it because Kingston has it. You have somebody on the corner selling. Look at them today and see what they're selling today. Check them tomorrow and rain is falling if you don't see them with an umbrella selling. They move fast because they're adapting, they're saying, okay, there must be somebody here that don't have no umbrella, rain falling. Are you that kind of person? Are we that kind of persons in our organization? Because we're going through change, Myers-Briggs uses this, and I'm borrowing it. But there are these three big changes: the ending, the transition zone, and the new beginning. And people are, right now, some people are uncertain, some people are denying that COVID. They say, no, COVID not real. It not happen to black people, it not happen to white people, it not happen to us. And so me now wear no mask. That's what some people say. Some people are still in that denial. We are all in the transition zone where we are a little anxious. You take off your mask here and say, Lord, I hope everybody have on their mask because I don't want to catch anything here and I want to keep my health good. Resistance, you have some people resisting. And it is our hope to eventually get to the new beginning. But we have to know that everybody goes through change. People are different. The three rules of change are that people are different, people are different, people are different. Everybody changes differently. So with that change, either we fall up and die or we transform. We don't have no choice. We're like the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. The transformation is crucial for our survival. If we don't do it, we'll die. If you think of a butterfly in a cocoon, ladies and gentlemen, if you cut open the cocoon, that caterpillar don't quite come out. It's not a caterpillar, it's not a butterfly. Because it's when they push through the cocoon, the wings get strong and they are able to fly. If you cut it open for them, they can't fly and they just die because they can't fulfill their purpose. This pandemic is forcing us to transform, to think, to push through, to say, okay, going to take time, effort to come. It took effort to come. I've been up since 4 o'clock to get here on time to be here. But it's worth it. If one person can know that they don't need to fall up and die, they can transform. And as organizations, we need to transform. And just a little image to break the monotony. So when we're talking about workforce development during and after a pandemic, it presents us with the opportunity to navigate through the organization with change and to carry our employees through transition. Because employees don't change. Employees transition management. Employees go through a transition. It's the psychological and the emotional feelings that they go through. And so when you're talking about, you can't just say, oh, come, let me develop you. No, go so. We know what Jamaican people, right? All right, let me not, as my brother would say, let me come out of the vernacular. But you get what I'm saying. We have to now say, this pandemic is a life-changing global event. There's pre and post. Because we just get a career shock. You change your career because you realize that, hey, I'm an attorney, but I probably need to do data. Because data is where my passion is. Or I need to work for the chamber because that's where my passion is. You know, I'm training, but I can't just train. I have to clean up the beach because I love to swim and I want to swim in a clean environment. So COVID is a career shock that can be disruptive. It can deplete your resources. You know, if the person, they're not working, after a while there's no money. It can affect the career outcome. Somebody was a manager and all of a sudden they had their mortgage and their car and now COVID and they don't have a job. How they pay the mortgage? How they pay for the car? Those are some of the things that affect career outcomes. And it can cause a personal environment misfit. And so we have to look at that. So I want us to ask ourselves some questions. Oral started this morning with some of these questions. Why is workforce development important to you? What returns on your expectations or outcomes do you want? Concretely now, we don't want no airy-fairy. In your organization, that workforce development is crucial to delivering. What is the value we get from developing our workforce? What are the skills we need as leaders in order to develop our workforce? Because you see, if we don't have the right skills as leaders, the workforce is not going to go anywhere. We have to start with me, you know, man in the mirror. We have to look at the man in the mirror. What are the reasons for workforce development? We talk about gaining competitive advantage, dealing with ongoing skill shortages that are coming and are there, turnover, reducing turnover, adapting to what the needs of the sector, the industry are, the business structures, aligning employee development with organizational needs, increasing worker productivity, putting employee development off hold, and ultimately, increasing your bottom line. So, Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I am challenging you to create what I call a gold standard workforce development brand strategy for your businesses in order for us to create the Jamaica that we want. Remember, with Jamaica we talked about the place of choice to work and do business. And so how are you going to create that strategy? You have to think about each organization, because we have to transform each organization into a learning organization by engaging in strategic workforce planning and development with the necessary learning infrastructure. What do I mean by that? An organization where learning takes center stage and people are working at their best, they are reflecting on what they are doing, they keep learning from each other and going again. In other words, we tolerate mistakes. We said, okay, we need to learn from our mistakes and grow. And this will ensure that our people are not left behind when we have this strategy. So this is not my full, if I was doing a training session of a whole day, we could go into this. But I'm just showing you the elements of the learning organization. Having a shared vision, personal mastery, developing mental models, seeing the ones that you need to chuck and the ones that you need to add. Mental model is really how you think. How you think, what do you need to change about how you think. Team learning, system thinking, those are some of the elements that you are going to build in your organization, guys. Richard Branson says, clients don't come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients. That's workforce development. Workforce development is saying, I'm going to focus on the people here. The people here make a difference. No matter how we have big data and AI and all of that, you're still going to need people. You're still going to need people to do certain things. A robot can give me a meal outside there at the Hilton in the dining room. But nobody could be like Anna Kay this morning when Anna Kay smiled and said, hey, how are you? We're so happy to have you. Welcome. That made a whole difference to my morning. Because a robot, no matter if a robot said that, it still wouldn't be the same. We're going to need people. So we need to focus on the people of our organization. Stanley Davis says, there's a catch-22 to catching up. When you get there, there isn't there anymore. And so we have to look again at ourselves. You remember this? Looking in, looking out, looking better? Borrowing it, borrowing it, borrowing it, borrowing it. Yeah, we know it probably copyrighted. But this is kind of what Michelle was talking about earlier. We need to ask ourselves some questions. Where are we now? We have to do a situational analysis. We have to say, where do we want to go? Your vision board. Have it in front of you. See, I was listening. Because if you don't do that, then we can't find ourselves down there. Notice where we are now? 2025, and we're talking about 2030. So if we're heading for 2030, if we don't set and look where we want to go and where we are now, we're going to be in trouble. Because look at the other part. The other part now is saying, what's the gap? Workforce development is filling that gap. It's saying, hey, we need to be the best in the business. What does the best in the business mean? We have to break that down. How can we now help our staff? John, no bother me, you bother me. That's going to make sure you're not the best in the business and the business fall up. And therefore, we have to look at that gap. So the strategy that I've been encouraging is just a basic workforce planning development strategy where you do the strategic planning. You look at your current workforce. You are the only person doing the training. But now with Zoom and breakout room, you might have to have somebody else. So you say, well, for future, I need at least 2 people to monitor the 2 breakout rooms that I plan to have for so and so, because I can't just run from one room to the other. Although you can still move with Zoom, but it's not quite the same. So I probably need to increase my workforce. That's my gap. Okay, what are the planning steps that I need to do? How am I going to get my persons? Okay, my cousin up the road, say I can't give her a stipend because I don't have no money to pay a full person now. What do I need to do? And then you execute. So it's a strategy that everybody can do. We don't have to have this big business. It don't have to take very long. But we have to do a proper view of things. Because when we do that, we will realize that our workforce is the most valuable asset. The knowledge and the skills they have represent the fuel that drives the engine of business. And you can leverage that knowledge. But you have to be able to look at the workforce. So, as leaders, what are the skills we're going to need? The skills we're going to need are, these are the skills. I hope you are seeing them. Cheerleader, listener. People want somebody to listen to, you know. If you listen to them, that's why a lot of people go to the doctor. That's why some older persons now are dying quickly. Because they used to just go to the GP to say, you can't read me letter for me, my daughter sent it from foreign. By the way, I just check my pressure. And they're fine. We have to listen to our staff. We have to experiment. We have to take risks. We have to counsel, troubleshoot, organize, be resilient. We are resilient people. Our ancestors were resilient people. They survived ships, whatever ships they came in, whether they were the pirates or the sailors or the Middle Passage, they survived. Not everybody survived. And so therefore we come from resilient people. And therefore we need to pass that resilience down. We need to be empathetic. We need to observe. We need to move away from the old-time management model. You know the old-time management model? Plan, control, monitor, and mindset. No, yeah. Let's just watch that person at work. Is she at work? Is she really doing any work? I need to see her. People who work, right, Natasha, as you were saying earlier, people are at home working. Right? And so we have to now move to this end. We need to observe what's going on. We need to communicate. We need to support. How do you support an employee that has 3 children? I have 3 children in online school now. I am hoping they are in school. I'm here. And when I go to work, out to work, I'm hoping they are in school. They should be in school. You know, how do you support a parent who is like that, who is thinking, saying, oh, or you might say, okay, all right, maybe you need to work from home 2 days a week. You know, what are the days that are work for you? All right, okay, you work 2 days, I work 2 days. We'll be all in on Tuesday, and so that we can meet and talk and share and have the corridor talk. Experiment, see what works, be open. Because, you know, these are the skills that are required in our workplaces now, ladies and gentlemen, are both hard and soft. Sometimes we say, yeah, they must know banking, right, Stuart? They must know banking. They must know hoteling, hospitality. But we forget the soft skills, the hello, the good morning. Years ago, I was a trainer, and the gardener said to me, Miss, them want me wash them car, and them want me clean the garden, but them can't tell me good morning. And he was so hurt. And some of them got so hurt that they wouldn't come to training because they were taught they were punishing the organization instead of losing out. They didn't realize they were losing out. How are we treating the average man that we think getting in our way? So the skills we need, working with people, important. But problem solving, the AI and the big ones, the analytical thinking, the creative thinking, the self-management. Not everybody know to manage yourself. In Jamaica, we say, we diss me and you got a problem, because you diss me. Because we don't know how to self-manage. We have to learn to self-manage. Technology use and development. Human skills are important. I think Michelle quoted that 40% of the current workers' core skills are expected to change in the next 5 years. What are we going to do? We have to go into a reskilling revolution. We have to say, you know, we have to look and say, okay, how do we support those who are displaced, those who are at risk as they navigate the paths for the jobs toward tomorrow? How do we support them? You know, there's a whole philosophy behind it now, because the same World Economic Forum talks about a job reset forum. When you get some chance, just look at it. The job reset forum talks about a closing skill gap accelerator model. And it says that there are some things that you need to do. Have public sector and private. You know, I'm from the public sector, but I'm also from the private sector because of Hermage and everything else. And so we need to have that kind of discussion. Public sector need to talk to private sector, and private sector need to talk to public sector. We need to say, how are we going to make Jamaica the place of choice? We have 9 years, people. We don't have a long time anymore. How do we do that? How do we work, and what are the skills we need to do? How are we going to help? You need to have the right people at the right places. You know, we need to have plans for the persons. I won't list out all of this, but we need to have those kinds of plans. Excuse me. The cheese has moved, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I don't know if you have ever read the book called Who Moved My Cheese? If you haven't read it, find it. Just or find the YouTube video and watch it. About 2 mice and 2 men. The mice were always ready for action. The men forgot. They didn't even know where they put their sneakers. They couldn't even run. We are now at a stage where we have to change and be ready to change again. We have to be at that kind of thing. So read that book if you get a chance. Workforce development is an investment, not a cost to your business. Develop your playbook. Thank you. Be committed to learning and development, fair wage practices, and merit-based management. Treat people with respect. Treat people with respect. When you are committed to learning and fair wages and merit-based management, according to the World Economic Forum, this acts as a signal to workers that their development efforts are not wasted and they will be rewarded for their investment. Where necessary, engage in what we call HIM. Excuse me, I don't have COVID. HIM is high involvement management, where your HR practices encourage greater proactivity, flexibility, and involvement. Don't kill them off, though. There are pros and there are cons with it. Be committed to career enhancement initiatives to support your HR investment. So, do you need to set up in your organization a fund? So they say, okay, we need skills in digital protection. So we're going to set up a fund, so anybody that wants to do digital protection, we will pay for it. Sorry. We will pay for it. That's what we mean in terms of, do you need to give them study leave or time off? Do you need to have scholarships? The research has shown, ladies and gentlemen, that older people tend to be a little apprehensive mid-career. When you're, after you spend so many years, you say, I'm not sure, me too old to learn, me can't bother, me too old. No. We need to encourage them to mid-career reskill and upskill. And you encourage them by the investment fund that I was talking about, the study leave, the time off. Target those staff members who are at the greatest risk of job displacement. Michelle spoke earlier of the admin assistants and the clerks and stuff. Those are the people. Target them. Redeploy talents and assets to where it is needed for short-term and long-term projects. Coming down. Focus your efforts on renewing learning and development systems across the ages. Because remember, in the workplace, you have the different age groups, multi-generations. You have the baby boomers, you have the generation X and Y and Z. You have the millennials. Don't just cater to one set. You had people like my mother who believed that the 60-hour work week was the work week. And you have the new set that say, let me work till Thursday, give me Friday. Just give me a long weekend. I will work the hours that you need. Just give me Friday off because I need to do what I need to do. You have that set. Use the new technological tools in the workplace and adapt to the new forms of working. Develop the conditions in your organization for tomorrow markets. The invention, the production, the demand, the standards, the codification, the infrastructure. Prepare staff for the creation of markets of tomorrow by taking advantage of the new technology and the new norms. So what have I been saying, ladies and gentlemen? I've just been saying, put the staff at the center. Don't forget that people are valuable. Because sometimes we forget, we see them as human capital. I have no problem with the term, but sometimes we forget they are people with feelings and emotions. We need to take care of our people. I end with a quote from a trade unionist called Michael Manley. He wrote in his book, A Voice in the Workplace, any advantage enjoyed by one person over another should never exist in spite of or at the expense of the worth and rights of another, but should only reflect legitimate differences in talent and application as they emerge in a context of equal opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. All the best. It was my pleasure, Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to be here as your main speaker today. Thank you.
Powerful and timely presentation indeed. Thank you very much, Mrs. Walters. The Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce thanks you for taking the time to share with us the importance of workforce development. There are so many takeaways from your presentation, and we're putting you on your organization, the HRMAJ, and notice to expect calls from we here in the West on HR matters and some of the suggestions that you have made. We're going to seek your guidance, your input in assisting us with those. Thank you again. Very powerful presentation indeed. We have some questions from our viewers. I'm going to invite our presenters to come on stage. Mrs. Parchment-Clarke, you can just walk it that. Yes. Yeah. There's none there? Sorry. It's there. It's there. Yes. Mr. Chukwuemeka Cameron. Michelle is online. Yes, we would take questions from our audience as well. Okay, I see a question here from Janique Williams. Sorry, I need to see. And Janique is asking, how should employers manage the relationship building in the world, I think it should be workforce, in the workforce, especially with new employees in a time where the workforce is moving into a remote environment? Let me read that again. How should employers manage the relationship building in the workforce, especially with new employees in a time where the workforce is moving to a remote environment? Who wants to take that?
Morning again, or afternoon now. I think the onus is on the managers of teams, of departments, of companies to really have a lot of engagement, group sessions, virtually. Again, Zoom, everything that we used to do can be done virtually. You can have conferences. We're having one today. So gathering people together, introducing. There's so many games that you can play. There's so much fun that you can have on virtual platforms to really get to know each other. Tell me about yourself. Tell me, we can share videos. You can link people with their social media so they can get to know who it is they're members of the team with. But I would put that on the organizational managers to make a big effort.
Thank you very much.
All right. I would say it's a two-way street, and I would encourage employers and supervisors, leaders, to at first get to know who the employees are. So one of the things I've used in team building is your language of appreciation. What is your language of appreciation? And therefore ask them, how do you want me to appreciate you? Do you want, some people want a one-on-one. You know, so virtually you set up a one-on-one meeting with that person and speak with them. Some people want a thank you note. You know, some people want a trophy. You know, and the trophy does not necessarily mean a trophy. You know, it could be a hand that says, hey, you did it. You know, I remember somebody did for me. They gave me a pink chain and said, you are a diva. I was going through a rough time, and I had it in my car for a long time just to encourage me. So just things that work. So I would say both the employees can lead from the middle. They don't have to wait for somebody from the top to lead.
Thank you.
May I add a quick, there's a really fun game. I love the languages of appreciation. Another fun way of getting to know persons, two truths and a lie. So I don't know you, but I'm going to tell you 3 facts. And then you have to kind of guess which one, you know, oh, I didn't know that about you. Or really those 2 are true. So, you know, it's a humorous way of doing it also.
Thank you. Any comment, Chuck?
I was trying to commit the 2 truths and a fact and a lie to memory.
Okay. I have a next question. This is from Althea Taylor. What advice would you give small business owners who want to convert to remote working but are daunted by the cost? I think Chuck want to take that one. Let me read it again. What advice would you give small business owners who want to convert to remote working but are daunted by the cost?
So I think we could look at what our educational system was forced to go through. Because remote working doesn't necessarily mean implementing VPNs and giving employees computers. What it means is converting how you operate your business. You now transform your business into a goal-oriented business where each employee has specific objectives and specific tasks, and you measure the outcomes. So, for example, you don't need to have them have a remote laptop. Just like in the school situation or remote school situation, you had mobile units at, information being available at certain points where they dropped off learning modules, parents or persons went and picked it up. So it is you now need to have to move away from the control and watch. So, okay, these are the tasks we need to achieve over this period of time. And then it's simply a matter of communicating that with them either at a central point and monitoring the outcomes, not monitoring what they are doing during the day, is monitoring the outcomes.
Thank you. Sorry,
just to go before he go, just to say too, just to add to that, sometimes we think we need to tell them what to do, but the discussion to say, staff, I want to do you remotely. How can we do this? I'm a small business owner. I can't afford some of the things other people can afford. How can we do this? And you'll be surprised to know the suggestions that staff will give you. The staff, you know, one lady said she saw the students in her community were not going to school. She set the work. She would go and write the work on they painted the walls in the community as a blackboard, and she set the work. Children were writing off and children were working. We have to just think outside of the box.
Thank you. Michelle, you heard that question. Have any comment on that question?
I had a bit of delay to the question. Can you repeat it? Oh, yes. There are many facets of remote working, and I think we should they should consider what is affordable for them in terms of their budget and what are some of the key things that they consider. So in a larger organization, you have things like soft phone, you have VPN, and those and different things help to make life much easier for employees. But if I can only afford to get a starter phone and not necessarily like a mobile phone for my team members, then I will work with that. And just the desktop, that alone can support you in doing remote work. So you may have to have a shared drive that information is in. So you'll have to pivot in terms of what you are using as your remote work tools. But yes, remote work sounds like it's like a big term, but you look at what you can afford and you pivot seamlessly and ensure that work is being done efficiently in the manner that's with the equipment that you have.
What practical tips can you share to get our labor force to change their mental attitude towards change? What practical tips can you share to get our labor force to change their mental attitude towards change? Who's taking that one first?
I guess I'll start. One of the only things in life that doesn't change is change. One of the main things. And we've been singing that song for a long time. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. From Marcus Garvey said those words, we've been saying them. Bob Marley sang about them. We say them all the time. Part of change is that we pretend that people must change quickly. We need to carry them through the phases of change and encourage them. Sometimes we have to slow it down. Everybody changes at a different pace. It's like when somebody dies for you and somebody says, get over it, no? You don't get over it yet. It's that kind of thing. We expect the workers to do the same. They must just get over it and just get with the change. It takes time. Carry them through it. Walk with them as they express their uncertainty. You have to, those are the things I was talking about earlier in terms of you have to observe. You have to communicate with the staff. Hear what they have to say. Why are they angry about the change? Is it that this change, every time you say you're going to change, you didn't keep your word, or it doesn't happen? What is it? Talk with them, communicate, and communicate is a two-way street. Support them, what kind of support they need in that. Experiment, say to them, okay, let's experiment and see where we need to go. Adapt, start again. And then the change will happen. People don't just oppose change, you know. But if you say one thing and do another, they are going to oppose it.
Thank you.
I would also chime in. Again, designing whatever program it is, be it a data protection program or HR program, design it around individuals. So a workforce is made up of individuals. So you really have to understand what are the drivers for the individuals. And you don't have to know every individual because a number of members of the workforce would have similar drivers. But it's really to start designing programs around your employees specifically.
Thank you. Have anybody else? Michelle, anything on that? I think Michelle hearing us. Well, I can't read that. I have one final question. What can employers put in place to ensure that their customers' data is protected while their employees are working remotely? I think Director Pauletta asked a question in the first panel discussion.
So the first question that one needs to determine is you first need to know what personal data is. That's the first thing. Know what personal data is because that's defined under the law. If it's not defined under the law, you don't have to worry about it, and there's no great exposure. When I say exposure, you don't have to worry about going to jail for it. So know what personal data is. Once you determine what personal data is, you then need to determine, okay, the personal data that the company is collecting, do we need to be collecting this personal data? Because if you don't need the personal data for any specific purpose, you don't need to be collecting it. So you have obligations on your side, from the company side, in terms of sharing it with the employees. Again, you have to look at each role that each employee plays to determine, okay, Chuck works with the sales team. Does he need to be accessing the HR records? Similarly, so does HR need to be accessing the CRM? So you do have to design a program around their personal data, and we don't have to be speaking about technical measures, because technical measures really only represent nearly 1/10 of the solution. It is one, the board, their top leadership management realizing that, okay, we are processing personal data and there's a big risk associated with personal data. What organizational measures are we putting in place? From an HR point of view, is the responsibility of personal data set out in the CEO's employment contract? Is it set out in all the employees' contracts? Is that responsibility for personal data reflected in the disciplinary code? So yes, it's set out in the contract, but if there's a breach, do they understand that it will attract personal sanctions? So there's no one easy answer to say, all right, just encrypt it and you're good. No, you have to appreciate the fact that you are dealing with a constitutional right and design and implement a data protection program that is in compliance with the legislation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we're going to allow our panelists by Zoom, our speaker by Zoom. Okay, this question is, in our presentation, she had focused on this question as well, the one that we asked before. What practical tips can you share to get our labor force to change their mental attitude towards change? So Michelle is going to get her response.
Hi. All right. So I hope you're all hearing me. Thanks to Mr. Barnes for assisting me with hearing the questions, because I'm not hearing on my end. But in terms of changing the mindset, and I'm happy that you touched on the change question, because I had wanted to touch on that as well, to remind the persons that change starts with me. And that means even us as leaders, we have to lead by example. So we have to not assume that everybody will adjust to the remote work in the same way or in the same manner. I was excited to hear that we were now going remote, and I would exude that excitement with my team. And then I realized that there are one or two persons that went quiet because their reality of remote was different from mine. They had four walls that they had to be looking at each and every day. They didn't have a husband, they didn't have a child. So their reality was a little different from mine. So we have to accept this first and foremost as business owners, as leaders, that our reality is different. We have to always look at the positives and the opportunities with remote work and speak the positives and speak the opportunities. And there are times when you just have to give your team a chance to let go, to socialize. So you may have to, once in a while, maybe once per quarter, come up with an activity where you can come back together again within the COVID guidelines, of course, and have them have that interaction. Or you have them come in once in a while, stagger it in terms of persons being able to feel and to see persons again, because persons definitely respond differently to it, but we have to be aware of the differences in terms of how people feel about remote work and mentally how people will struggle with this. So lead by example and help them along the way.
Thank you very much. That's very fitting, and as a note that we can bring this forum to a close on. Our main presenter, Lois Walters, President of the Human Resource Management Association of Jamaica. We thank you very much. Michelle McIntyre-Plummer, NCB Talent Manager, greatly appreciate you. Natasha Parchment-Clarke, Director, NPC Training Tree, thanks. And of course, Mr. Chukwuemeka Cameron, Attorney at Law, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Oral Heaven, First Vice President of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also a financial advisor with Sagicor Life, Jamaica. We need to thank the Hilton Rosehall Hotel for accommodating us. Very beautiful setting. We need to thank our appliance TV depot for our furniture. We must thank Sagicor Bank, National Commercial Bank, Watts Power Tool, JAFCO, our technicians, Andre and Mickey, for taking us through. We really appreciate all who have contributed to this. Our President, Janet Silveira, members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen, this was a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks to our viewers online, and wish for you a productive rest of the day and a great weekend. Thank you.